tactical and civilian in nature. In this regard, we have mobilized relevant agencies and international organizations to support the counterinsurgency effort in order to ensure success. Successful policies require holistic approach. In our current emergency, we have mobilized our neighbors and traditional authorities in our quest to root out the problem which has its roots in the economy and society. This administration is therefore committed to diversifying our economy. We have been partnering with friendly countries, economies, to attract much needed foreign direct investment. Side by side, our policies are designed to entrench and strengthen security, stability, and shared prosperity. We are accordingly looking at alternate means of generating electricity to power our industries and meet domestic demand. I assure you all that a lot has been achieved in this regard, and we are putting in more effort in order to achieve more. This is to ensure that we build an economically prosperous, politically stable, socially just, and truly democratic Nigeria, where security of lives and property is guaranteed. We are also committed to ensuring that our armed forces are appropriately trained and equipped to deal with the contemporary challenges of a globalized world, of which insurgency and terrorism have become of greatest concern. In the last few years, government's effort at re-professionalizing the armed forces performance has yielded positive results. The provision of modern equipment and motivation of personnel through enhanced welfare is ongoing, and I am aware that training activities within the armed forces has improved tremendously. We will continue to support the drive to modernize the armed forces through enhanced budgetary allocation in their quest to meet the constitutional demands of protecting Nigeria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. I therefore charge the armed forces, particularly our Air Force, to maintain their efficiency and professionalism in carrying out their constitutional duties. I would like to stress that there has been steady improvement in the security situation in the Northeast, where the Boko Haram activities have been confined in recent times. We have denied them the ability to hold territory and the freedom of movement to operate at will, and they now resort to sectarial attacks on soft targets. Our thoughts and prayers are always with the victims of families of the Boko Haram atrocities. We remain committed to ensuring that the crisis comes to an end, while making the Northeast and indeed all parts of Nigeria safe for all to live and prosper. Let me, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, once again assure the military that I will continue to ensure appropriate funding for our armed forces in order to enhance capacity building and deepen professionalism. Finally, I wish to express my profound appreciation to all the countries represented at this gathering, especially our partners and friends that have contributed in one way or the other towards the success of our counter-insurgency operations. I hope that the quality of papers to be delivered and subsequent discussions will be beneficial to the Nigerian Air Force in particular, the Nigerian Armed Forces, and Nigeria in general. On this note, I have the singular honor to declare this International Air Power Seminar open. I thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your words of encouragement. We are indeed very grateful. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, next on our program is the photo session. At the end of the photo session, we will have the national anthem to mark the end of the opening ceremonies. Thereafter, Mr. President will be invited on a tour of the photo gallery. In order to have an organized tour of the gallery, the tour will be conducted in batches. Batch 1 will comprise Mr. President and 15 others that have been given special invitation for a tour of the gallery with Mr. President. Batch 2 will comprise former service chiefs and foreign service chiefs. Batch 3 will comprise defense attaches accredited to Nigeria, while Batch 4 will comprise other invited guests. Our distinguished guests are requested to kindly remain seated in this auditorium until they are invited for the tour of the gallery. Before the photo session, kindly permit me to invite the Chief of the Air Staff to present a memento to our special guest of honor in commemoration of his presence at the maiden Nigerian Air Force International Air Power Seminar. The Chief of the Air Staff, sir. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May I now invite Air Commodore I.O. Daramola, the Director of Public Relations and Information, Headquarters, Nigerian Air Force, to conduct the photo session. Air Commodore Daramola, sir.
The special guest of honor, Your Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, Grand Commander of the Federal Republic. Sir, please permit me to stand on the already established protocol. As mentioned, I am Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, and I will conduct this photo session. Initially, it was to be done in two parts, but now we've compressed to just one photo, which will be done on the first and the third rows on the photo stand. Your Excellency, sir, may I invite respectfully the chiefs of the air staff or heads of delegations or their representatives from the following countries to take their positions on the photo stand on the third row. Chiefs of the air staffs of Sierra Leone, sir. Kenya, Cameroon, Liberia, the United Kingdom, Chad, France. Next is Morocco, followed by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Turkey, Togo, Niger Republic, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Senegal, Jordan, and Guinea-Bissau. May I now also invite our distinguished former chiefs of defense staff in the persons of Air Chief Marshal O.O. Petinri, next is Air Chief Marshal Paul Dike, Air Marshal A.M. Dagash, former chiefs of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Eni Edwok, Air Marshal J.D. Wiyep, and Air Vice Marshal Femi John Femi, retired. May I now also respectfully request the ministers of the Federal Capital Territory and the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. I also invite the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Naval Staff, representatives of the Chief of Army Staff, and the Inspector General of Police to take their places on the stand. It is now my honor and privilege to respectfully request the Honorable Minister of Defense and the Chief of the Air Staff to invite and lead the special guest of honor, President Muhammadu Buhari, to take his place for the photo. Please be seated so that the photographers can take a good shot. Please take your seats if you are not one of the... Thank you. Thank you, sir. With that, we have come to the end of the photo session. May I request the Honorable Minister of Defense and Chief of the Air Staff to lead the special guest of honor back to his seat, while the rest of our very important personalities also return back to their seats. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, may we please rise for the national anthem. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May I request the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal S.B. Abubakar, Distinguished Flying Star, to lead the special guest of honor and the 15 invited guests in batch 1 to view the photo gallery. You may please be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as you complete the tour of the gallery, you will be led to the banquet hall for tea break, and will be expected to reconvene at this auditorium at 12:25 hours for the presentations that are to follow. You are kindly requested to wait in this auditorium until it's time for your batch to go for the tour of the photo gallery. Thank you for your patience.
The Nigerian Air Force was established in 1964 by an Act of Parliament to be the principal agency for the projection of air power in fulfillment of the nation's security imperatives. Since then, it has participated in several operations, from the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970, to the ECOMOG operations in Liberia and Sierra Leone, to the anti-militancy operations in the Niger Delta, and the ongoing counter-insurgency operations against the Boko Haram terrorists, in addition to several other internal security operations. The Nigerian Air Force has also projected air power beyond the shores of Nigeria in more recent times, with its intervention in the Gambia towards restoring democracy and the airlift of relief materials to Sierra Leone and other countries in furtherance of the federal government's foreign policy initiatives. All these air operations could not have been successfully carried out without the availability of serviceable platforms and, more importantly, the human beings that operate them. This short video clip is therefore aimed at giving a sneak peek into how Nigerian Air Force pilots are made. The starting point for the making of all Nigerian Air Force pilots, who are all commissioned officers, is the 401 Flying Training Wing, located at the Nigerian Air Force Base, Kaduna. At the moment, all officers or officer cadets to be trained as pilots must have first enlisted at the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna. However, in the past, The Nigerian Air Force also directly enlisted potential pilots who did not have to go through the Nigerian Defense Academy. There is an Air Force wing at the Nigerian Defense Academy where officer cadets that had been accepted as potential pilots received training tailored towards making them future Nigerian Air Force officers. The training usually includes instructions in airmanship, air navigation, and other skills required to be a good pilot, among others. In their 5th year at the Nigerian Defense Academy, potential pilots report at 401 Flying Training School, where they are given an initial briefing, after which they report to the 061 Aeromedical Center, Kaduna, for a comprehensive checkup to determine if they are medically fit for flying. For those found to be medically fit, it is now time for the first phase of training as pilots in the Nigerian Air Force. The primary flying training, which usually begins with a ground school at 401 Flying Training School, Kaduna, begins. Thereafter, the student pilots undergo a survivor training, the aim of which is to prepare them to survive in any environment they might be forced to eject into. The survivor training includes rigorous physical fitness training, how to land with a parachute after ejecting or jumping out of an aircraft, training in unarmed combat, weapons training, and field tactics. Following the survivor training, the student pilot is then ready to start actual flying, which also include an aircraft simulator experience for cost effectiveness and enhanced safety in flying training. Aircraft currently used for primary flying training in the Nigerian Air Force are Diamond 40 aircraft and the recently acquired Pakistan Super Mushak aircraft. After several flying training exercises under the tutelage of an instructor pilot, the student pilot would go for the first solo flight after he or she must have accumulated a minimum of 14 flying hours and is deemed ready by the instructor pilot. Then comes the tradition of pouring water on the student pilot who successfully completes he or her first solo flight. The student pilot goes on to consolidate with more flights until cleared by the instructor pilot as having successfully completed the ab initio flying training, acquiring a minimum of 50 total flying hours in the process. A graduation ceremony follows before the student pilot proceeds for the second phase of flying training, known as basic flying training. Basic flying training in the Nigerian Air Force for potential fighter and transport pilot is usually conducted at 403 Flying Training School, Kano, while potential helicopter pilots proceed directly to the International Helicopter Flying School at the Nigerian Air Force Base, Enugu. During the basic flying training, Nigerian Air Force student pilots again undergo another ground school, taking cognizance of the aircraft type they would be flying while training. Similarly, the students are able to again enjoy the advantages of cost effectiveness and enhanced safety provided by a simulator during their basic flying training.
So
After several flying training exercises under the tutelage of an instructor pilot, the student pilot would go for the first solo flight when he or she is deemed ready by the instructor. The student pilot goes on to consolidate with more flights until cleared by the instructor pilot as having successfully completed the basic flying training, acquiring a minimum of 120 total flying hours in the process. It is only after the successful completion of the basic flying training that the Nigerian Air Force student pilots are winged in a colorful celebration. After becoming winged pilots, the young pilots then convert on an operational aircraft at 401 Flying Training School, Kaduna, for transport pilots, 113 Helicopter Combat Group for helicopter pilots, and 117 Aircraft Combat Group for fighter pilots. Subsequently, the pilots are deployed for operational duties either in the Northeast or any theater operations as might be necessary in pursuance of the constitutional responsibilities of the Nigerian Air Force. This has been a glimpse of how Nigerian Air Force pilots are usually made.
Very senior officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. Mr. President is taking his time to view the gallery, so he's yet to exit the area. As such, we'll request you to wait a little bit while he completes his tour of the gallery. Air Commodore Alade, Air Commodore E.O. Alade, please be on standby to guide Batch 2 to the gallery session. Air Commodore Alade, please. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the conveniences are at the rear to my right. At the rear to my right, the conveniences. Thank you very much, sir.
In April 1964, the Nigerian Air Force was established by an act of parliament to achieve a full complement to the defense structure of Nigeria. It has since then been contributing to to the defense of Nigeria's territorial integrity and maintenance of internal security.
I'm one of the pioneer pilots that was recruited into the Nigerian Air Force way back in 1962.
I was part of the pioneer people who came into Kaduna in 1963 to start the Air Force.
Like every organization, the Nigerian Air Force had had its fair share of challenges in its 54 years of existence. Now 54, the Nigerian Air Force has become a formidable force, contributing immensely to nation building as the third arm of the Nigerian military. It has no doubt been fulfilling its assigned statutory responsibilities over the past 54 years through its participation in various campaigns and air operations both within Nigeria and beyond the shores of this country. We now look at some events that have shaped the Nigerian Air Force as it rapidly evolved from a small transport unit to a force that is now reckoned with in the projection of air power in Africa. At the formative stage of the Nigerian Air Force, much of the initial efforts were focused on developing its airlift capability in order to transport Nigerian contingents to United Nations peacekeeping operations. In those days, the Nigerian Air Force only operated from its premier base, the Nigerian Air Force Base, Kaduna. When the Nigerian Civil War broke out in July 1967, the Nigerian Air Force had on its inventory only the Piaggio 149D trainer aircraft, not Atlas and Donia 2728 transport aircraft. It was very much at its infancy with no combat aircraft and was therefore least prepared for the Civil War.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for your patience. The photo gallery is now available for members in batch 2, comprising former chiefs of defense staff, former service chiefs, and foreign serving chiefs participating in this seminar. Air Commodore Alade will lead you for the tour of the gallery.
We're thrown into the war without any platforms.
I say again, the gallery is available for members of batch 2, comprising former chiefs of defense staff, former service chiefs, and foreign serving chiefs participating in this seminar. Air Commodore Alade is waiting to my right to lead you for the gallery event. Our invited foreign service chiefs are kindly requested to join their colleagues and Air Commodore Alade for the gallery event. Thank you.
Use to prosecute any war.
The Air Force on the ground, but very, very scanty. As I said, they haven't got aircraft to fight the war. So we, those of us, myself, Yusuf and Kola, had an audience with the then head of state, General Gowon, and said, "Sir, we want to be involved in this warfare." He said, "How?" He said, "We want to take over the DC-3s of the Nigerian Airways and use them, no matter how crudely, to support our own military formations." And he gave us a go-ahead.
This infant force was undertaking airdrop missions using the DC-3 aircraft taken over from the Nigerian Airways to provide own troops with logistic resupply and also evacuating wounded troops from the front line. As crude as the employment of air power was then, there were critical moments when the Nigerian Air Force saved the day during the Civil War.
Even before the war finished, they got some jets and they were able to fire before the ground forces moved in. Remember, they did a lot of bombing in Enugu. Even before we captured Enugu, we were around the top hill there, waiting for the Air Force to do all the bombing. And then scatter the Biafran, they run away before moving.
The advent of the Civil War set a new challenge that shaped the Nigerian Air Force. This led to the acquisition of combat aircraft to prosecute the war.
As the war proceeded, I believe by '68, our air power improved further when we started acquiring the MiG-17s and MiG-15s and MiG-17s.
I came in about 9 years after the end of the Civil War in 1979. But it's very clear that from what we have read, it's very clear that the Air Force played a very crucial role in supporting the surface forces to ensure that the Nigerian Civil War was brought to an end that is favorable to Nigeria or to the federal side. The Air Force participated in so many of the operations there. They played the role of close air support, logistic resupply, movement of forces, and so on and so forth. So actually, even though the Air Force was in its formative stage, embryonic stage, it was still able to add a lot of value to the efforts that was put together by the country to ensure the unity of Nigeria.
After the Civil War, the Nigerian Air Force was restructured into 3 field commands and headquartered Nigerian Air Force with 4 staff branches. The Tactical and Training Commands were the first to be established in 1978, while Logistics Command was later established in 1981. Each command consists of groups, wings and squadrons, which replaced the initial formations.
The Air Force really organized itself and had fighter aircraft, air defense aircraft, transport and helicopters. So we built on that. And when I took over in 1980, I improved on that. Then we got, during my time, we got the 3rd command. You know, we had only training command and the strike command before. During my time, then I introduced the logistics command. So the 3rd leg.
More platforms were acquired to enhance operational capability of the Nigerian Air Force, and efforts were made to domesticate training and build capacity for self-reliance. This period ushered in the establishment of a number of Nigerian Air Force training institutions across the country. Another major event that would test the might of the service was the religious crisis of Metasineh sect barely a decade after the Civil War. Unlike the Nigerian Civil War, the Nigerian Air Force this time was better equipped to support the efforts of the Nigerian Army and police.
When the Metasineh crisis started, I was a cadet, but you know, we were all familiar with the role that the Nigerian Air Force played in Kano. The fighter aircraft were scrambled, I think the MiG-21s then, to fly overhead the area and, you know, create the desired effect and send the right message to the Metasineh guys.
And I can also tell you that we did a good job, even though it was a flying training group. Luckily, we had the MiG-21s there, as well as L-39. I was flying the MiG-21 then. So we deployed the MiG-21s as well as the L-39 in support of 3rd Brigade.
Another event that brought the Nigerian Air Force out to show its air power was a series of violent incursions into Nigeria by Chadian forces and armed rebels along the Nigerian border with Chad Republic in April 1983. The Nigerian Army, supported by the Nigerian Air Force, succeeded in pushing the Chadian forces out of Nigerian territory.
We moved from Makurdi to Maiduguri, a forward operation base now. Maiduguri became our forward operating base to support the army in that operation. We actually did well because we were able to, within a very short time, maximum of 2 months, push back the insurgents into our territory.
The involvement of the Air Force that time came in to assist us in the logistic support, for the operation, and the combat, aircraft that came using their mixed jets and other things, and assisted in combating, those things that happened. And in fact, without the help of the Air Force that time, things would have escalated beyond our control.
The ECOMOG operations in Liberia and Sierra Leone is another major event that shaped the evolution of the Nigerian Air Force.